Hello everybody, my name is Rainer, this is Rainier Books. Today I want to talk about a great new award that is in its second year. It's the Waterstones Award for New Fiction, for Debut Fiction in the UK, which spans all books written in English from the whole world. And this award, it comes from one of Britain's greatest bookshops, booksellers, biggest booksellers, Waterstones. I always thought that Waterstones is a company that is very, very old, but it isn't. It's actually was founded in 1982, but it's very successful. It has about 800 bookstores in the UK and some other countries, and it has a revenue of like 399.8 million British pounds. That's a lot of money, and we should support the independent booksellers, the little stores in your local area. Of course we do, but I think that it's a great achievement. Waterstones is really doing good with this award. You have the power, the financial power to give an award, and they do it, and they do it. They have a great shortlist for 2023, and let's look at the shortlist of this award for Best Debut Fiction. The prize will be announced on August 24th, so we have a couple of weeks to read the shortlist. Number one on the shortlist is Chain Gang AllStars by Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah, an author born in 1991. The book was published by Harvill Secker in the UK on March 2 in 2023. And this is a book about the Chain Gang AllStars, about two women, Loretta Turwar and Hamara, called Hurricane Stacker. Teammates and lovers, they are fan favorites, they are gladiators, they fight for money and for freedom and for everything and for glory in the US. And this is a book, a dystopia, a book about the prison system in the United States as far as I understand it. And I was so lucky that I can pick it up this afternoon in the library. So when you see this video next week, I will already have it for 3 days and hopefully read a bunch of pages in there. Next one on the list is a book that I've read. I think you might see it behind me in the shelves, on the shelves, whatever it is. Fire Rush by Jacqueline Crooks, that was published on March 2 in 2023, and it was published by Jonathan Cape. This book is a great debut of an author who has debuted a little bit on the later side in her life, but she has made a wonderful story of this beautiful London girl, Yumei, who is living in London in the dub scene in the end of the 1970s. A lot of reggae music, a lot of dub music, a lot of dancing in this book. In the first part, we have a love story. In the second part, we have a story of, well, threat, abuse, whatever. And in the third part, 3 parts in that book, we have I could say back to the roots. We're going to cockpit country in Jamaica. And this place in the Caribbean scene in London and the 1970s, it has everything. It has love, it has finding yourself, developing into an adult and know who you really are, and sort of also liberate yourself. This is a wonderful book, very poetic, has a great, great soundtrack. The third book on that shortlist, I'm very keen and interested in reading this, and probably have to buy it because the library, Lisbon Stockholm Library, they haven't got it yet, and it's not on their lists, not in their catalog. This is Close to Home by Michael McGee, published on April 6th in 2023. I read the blurb here from the publisher. Luminous and devastating, a portrait of modern masculinity as shaped by class, by trauma, and by silence, but also by the courage to love and to survive. Sean's brother Anthony is a hard man. When they were kids, their ma did her best to keep him out of trouble, but you can't say anything to Anto. Sean was supposed to be different. He was supposed to leave and never come back. But Sean does come back. Arriving home after university, he finds Anthony's drinking is worse than ever. Meanwhile, the jobs in Belfast have vanished. Sean's degree isn't worth the paper it's written on, and no one will give him the time of day. One night he loses control and assaults a stranger at a party, and everything is tipped into chaos. Close to Home witnesses the aftermath of that night as Sean attempts to make sense of who he has become and to reckon with the relationships that have shaped him for better and for worse. Drawing from his own experiences, Michael McGee examines the forces which keep young working class man in harm's way in a debut novel which shines with intelligence and humanity on every page. Close to Home is an extraordinary work of fiction about deciding what kind of man you want to be and finding your place in the scarred city that you call home. Well, I have to order this, definitely. Next on the list is a book that I read and that I LOVE'd, Wandering Souls by Cécile Pin. It was on the long list of the Women's Prize earlier this year. It was published by Fourth Estate on March 21 in 2023. It is a wonderful, a marvelous book, like 240 pages, about a family who is fleeing from Vietnam at the end of the 1970s, coming to the UK and trying to establish their life there. Not all of them reach the United Kingdom. Some of them die on the way in the waters of the ocean. So this is about grief, this is about racism, this is about establishing yourself in a new country. This is the immigrant story that millions of people are writing each and every day in the world. And this is teaching us, who didn't have to flee from a country to another country, that we should be more sensible and more listen to the stories that we have around us. Wow. Next one is a book that I'm very interested in. I haven't heard about it. And thanks very much to Waterstones for showing me that book. This is Kala by Colin Walsh. It was published on July 6th. That was a couple of days ago only, in 2023 by Atlantic Books. I read the blurb here. This is a gripping literary page-turner from a rising Irish talent in which former friends, estranged for 20 years, reckon with the terrifying events of the summer that changed their lives. In the seaside village of Kinlough, on Ireland's west coast, three old friends meet for the first time in years. They, Helen, Joe and Mush, were part of an original group of 6 inseparable teenagers in the summer of 2003. That's not an Irish accent, Rainer. With motherless, reckless Carla Lannan at its white hot center. But later that year, Carla disappeared without a trace. Now remains have been discovered in the woods, including a skull with a Polaroid photo tucked inside. And the town is both aghast and titillated. I'm learning new words here. Titillated at reopening this old wound. On the eve of this gruesome discovery, Helen had reluctantly returned for her father's wedding. The world's famous musician Joe had come home to dry out and reconnect with something authentic, and Mush had never left, too shattered by the events of that summer to venture beyond the counter of his mother's cafe. But when 2 more girls go missing, they are forced to confront their own complicity in the events that led to Carla's disappearance. Ultimately, they must do what others should have done before to stop the violent patterns of their town's past repeating themselves once again. In cracklingly vivid prose, Carla brilliantly examines the sometimes brutal costs of belonging, as well as the battle in the human heart between vengeance and forgiveness, despair and redemption. Wow, I want to read that. Probably the second book I have to order from this list, although I don't want to buy so many new books. Really, I don't want to. Therefore, the next one, the last one on that shortlist, I have ordered from the library. I saw it in the catalog yesterday. Many of you folks out there have said it will be on the long list of the Booker. Many of you, actually. Quite many. I had not heard about it. I heard it in the prediction videos. This is a debut by an author called Alice Wynne. It's called In Memoriam. It was published by Viking on March 7 in 2023. This is a gripping, heart-shattering love story between 2 soldiers in the First World War. It's 1914 and talk of war feels away to Henry Grant, Sidney Elwood and the rest of their classmates safely ensconced in their idyllic boarding school in the English countryside. At 17, they're too young to enlist, and anyway, Gaunt is fighting his own private battle, an all-consuming infatuation with his best friend, the dreamy, poetic Elwood. Not having a clue that Elwood is in love with him, always has been. When Gaunt's German mother asks him to enlist as an officer in the British Army to protect the family from anti-German attacks, Gaunt signs up immediately, relieved to escape his overwhelming feelings for Elwood. The front is horrific, of course, and though Gaunt tries to dissuade Elwood from joining him on the battlefield, Elwood soon rushes to join him, spurred on by his love of Greek heroes and romantic poetry. Before long, their classmates have followed suit. Once in the trenches, Elwood and Gaunt find fleeting moments of solace in one another, but their friends are all dying right in front of them, and at any moment, they could be next. An epic tale of both the devastating tragedies of war and the forbidden romance that blooms in its grip, In Memoriam is a breathtaking debut. This is the shortlist of the Waterstones prize. I think it's great books. I want to read all of them. I've read 2 of them. I want to read the rest of them. I get Chain Gang AllStars, and the other 3 I will also try to read by the end of the year. This is really a great selection of books. And with that, I say goodbye, hasta la vista, hey do, and auf Wiedersehen.